say that Drake's personality, and Jacoby's kind of the same way, that those two are, they're really, really humble, and they don't, with regards to Drake, I would say Drake almost, and I don't know this, not like we talked about it, but just the way he handles it, Drake almost, it's almost like a superstition, or it's a bad omen to talk about the good stuff. You know, he always wants to, okay, the touchdowns are fine, the good passes are fine, but he immediately, upon getting a compliment, is like, yeah, but you know what, I got to work on. And I have said to him on a number of occasions, I said, look, appreciate when you do something well, because he does execute a lot of things well, but he is a perfectionist, which is a good trait to have as a quarterback. And he's forever looking at what he's not doing well. He's forever asking about what he's not getting done the right way. You know, that's what you need to do if you're trying to get better every day. So I think he enjoyed playing well during the times of the game that he played well, and I think he was very, very receptive. Because Sunday meetings tend to be with coaches. They tend to be, hey, you look at all the positive stuff in a blink. Like, that's good. That's what we're supposed to do. And we're really, you know, you're making a snap tape most of the time, and you're looking at all the negative stuff, or you're looking at the stuff that you could do better. And that's really what he wants to see. So we kind of move on from the positive after a few comments, and then we look at a few things, and we hit the stuff that we've got to get better at, that we need to do better for next week. Some of the mistakes we made on Saturday, if we make them again in App State, they're going to be bigger mistakes. And so what we need to do is make sure we take the field having all of that stuff rectified. And so the perfectionist approach that he has is really good, especially with a young quarterback that needs to develop from week to week.
Max said he was pleasantly surprised that Drake played as well as he did on Saturday. Was there anything that you were surprised about, kind of just the way that he went out there and dominated the way that he did?
So, you know, I think Drake, like Jacoby, and have a different advantage maybe than Sam Howell did. They've been out in this field before. You know, our blue team, our white team, they get the same amount of reps every single day in practice. So Jacoby and Drake and even Connor in the spring shared everything. So they got reps at it all. And then, you know, Drake and Jacoby got equal reps all the way through August camp. So these guys have been here for multiple years, and they have seen corner blitz, they've seen double backer pressure, they've seen safety pressure, they've seen all of the different looks from a front and a coverage and a pressure standpoint. So it was just nice to see Drake put the whole product together. You know, and he's got a good number of plays. I'd say we played 78 snaps. I think Jacoby got 8, and Drake might have had about 70 or 71 snaps. And I'd say 55 of them we really liked, and there might have been a dozen or 15 plays out there that we'd like to have back and handle differently. You know, there were some things where we had the deep shot open and he took the check down, so there was a positive on the play, but it could have been an explosive, those types of things. And really the biggest thing is we wanted to settle his feet in the pocket. He was way too active with his feet, he knows that. And so we need to kind of stay at the top of the drop unless we really have to get out of there. And that'll be an emphasis for he and I this week.
Not to give, obviously, your offense and play calling away, but what have you changed to adapt to what Drake does well, or what you want him to do well? The red zone look a little different at times, and maybe how you move him is maybe potentially different than Sam?
So I have alluded to this a number of times, but I have always felt, even going back to watching him live in playoff games in high school, that he never gets the credit for the mobility that he has, you know, and I heard Coach Brown talking about him in summer workouts beating some of the other skill players on a lot of our COD stuff and our speed stuff and our explosion stuff. So he's quick. You saw that when he took the burst down the right sideline off the draw. I think he's a much bigger running threat than people give him credit for, and you saw that on Saturday. I also think his mobility helps him extend plays. So we move him a little more. If you've noticed that already. We'll roll him out. We'll use him on the edge. We will use him in the run game when we feel like it's an effective, attack. But we want him to do what he did Saturday. We want him to distribute the ball to the talent that we have and use his legs, as an add-on. At the end of a play that doesn't work the way it's supposed to schematically, use his legs. And then when we want to call his number, as a ball carrier in the draw or off a zone read or something, then we can, because he has the ability to do it. And then one of the other things that both of these guys do really well is I've always felt like Drake and Jacoby do a fantastic job throwing off platform. And so, on the run and off at different, out of different scenarios where their body is not set and their feet aren't set and they can't throw. The touchdown throw to Gavin Blackwell is a perfect example, right? Probably stepped up in the pocket and moved around too much there. We could have just sat there. And I think he had a return route to Josh Downs that was open, and we could have hung right there in the pocket and fired that and scored. He didn't see it. We're kind of moving around a little bit. He dances out. We scramble left. That same concept opened up as a scramble route to Gavin, and he threw off platform there. And, it was a nice throw, and it was a score for us. So that's a perfect example of a play that resulted in a touchdown that we probably could have made a little bit easier. And then it also demonstrated his athletic ability. So that's going to be an asset all year.
Any difference in approach to the red zone or high red zone in terms of?
Yeah, I mean, we'll Sam was mobile, but Sam was more of I kind of, in my mind, saw Sam as a more physical, downhill, north-south runner. We used him in that way. Zone reads, we want him to turn the corner quick and get vertical. I think what Drake gives you, he's not going to be as, physically as strong, heading north and south. We want him sliding more and doing those type of things, but he's really good laterally, and so you can do some more of those things. He can roll out, he can run naked. He can be mobile laterally, and it's just one of his strengths, so we're going to use it.
Phil, what were your comments to Drake yesterday when he went over the helicopter dive for the end zone?
I saw his mom after walking out to the parking lot. There weren't many people here left, and Mom and Dad were out there, and I just said, hey, what'd you think? And, right away, I know she was thinking about that play, right? Because moms are thinking about, caring for their son. I have to be honest and say, when you get that close to the goal line, as long as we're securing the football, I appreciate any effort to get in the end zone. So that's the competitiveness that Drake has. That's just who he is. And I can't ever see him getting close to the first down or getting close to the end zone and not getting a great athletic effort to try and get in. I can't see him, even the draw that he took down the right sideline, he's been directed, let's get out of bounds. He took 2 hits on the sideline for an extra 2 yards, and it's not necessary. Down on the goal line, we're trying to get in, we're trying to get 7. And so I appreciate it. I just want to make sure when you elevate and get up in the air, the ball tends to work away from your body. So, it's Javonte Williams, he got up in the air on a play against Duke a few years back, and the ball came out because it's not a natural thing that you do, and where you're maintaining the ball position against your body, it's hard to do. But that's Drake being competitive. I appreciate it. I think our team appreciates it, and as long as we're taking care of the football, I'm good with it. I wouldn't want to see that out at the 40-yard line.
Can you give us a sense of how much of the package Marion Hampton has right now? Did he do what he did off of very limited?
No, I'm smiling because between Coach Brown and Coach Porter and myself, we've had numerous conversations about Omarion Hampton having a package last week in the game because he's a freshman, and he didn't start the game. We got him in as the game started getting into rhythm a little bit. But this package soon became, we're playing Omarion all the time, right? So it was going to be, hey, let's protect him and let's see how he does, and let's get him the ball, and let's get him some protection, and let's get him a look at a throw, just to see how he responds to all this stuff. And once he started playing, and once he started executing, and once he started producing, which is probably the key word there, that kind of went out the window for me in my mind, and I ran the offense with him, and he did a good job mentally of being in position and executing what he needed to execute. And I thought he ran the ball well. I don't think that guy's going to get better as time goes on. He reminded me of year one Javonte Williams for us, when Javonte used to break out into the open field and didn't have the moves, didn't do as good at the point of attack against a second or third level defender. And then Javonte comes back a year later And, he has the most missed tackles in the country in college, and I think he led the NFL on that last year. So I'm hoping that Omarion will develop that same thing. And so that's something I know Coach Porter's talking to him about right now, is having a little bit of an understanding and a repertoire once we beat the line of scrimmage about managing the next guy that addresses him in the run game.
Where's Omarion in respect to the non-running things that he used to do?
Better. What's easiest for a running back? To know how to take a handoff and run the football. So that's what comes naturally. But he catches the ball very well, truthfully. We have utmost confidence in throwing the football to him, as we do most of the backs. And, protection is probably the longest learning curve for any running back in most offenses, and that's true here. But we're to a point now where that's not a concern for Omarion. It's just we wanted to try to make sure we got him enough reps in practice, so we felt as confident about him in pass protection as we do throwing him the football and handing him the ball off in the run game.
You kind of touched on that, but how much can the depth chart change after one game, not just running back, wide receiver, offensive line? Like, how much do you put stock in what they did in that game, and how that changed the depth chart?
Well, I would say there's a lot of weight put on how they actually execute in an actual game. It's so different from our scrimmages, which were very competitive, and those are obviously very different than practices. So in-game performance and production, to me, carries a lot of weight, and I don't know how much that's going to drastically change the depth chart. I think where we are, Ross, truthfully, it's not about who's first and who's second, or who's third, or who's in the rotation and who's not. It's more about trying to develop anybody that we think is within reach of helping us or contributing to the win on Saturday. Because we really want to get, I think we played 18 guys in the regular rhythm of the offense on Saturday, and we'd like to get 18 to 22 on the field every week. So it's always looking at, okay, this guy is in the rotation, but he's the weak link. What can we do to get him better, so that we're just taking the field with a stronger 18 or 20 players every week. And I think the depth chart here is more, if you're on the blue team, you're playing on Saturday, and how you produce when you're out there really dictates how long we're going to leave you out there. And then the only other thing that would make that change is the fatigue factor. Like, Josh Downs can go all game for the most part. De'Ami Brown was special that way. Great endurance. He could go all game. Those two guys only come out when they take themselves out, right? Right now, we're in a rotation to keep the backs fresh. Coach Lilly did a great job of keeping all three tight ends in the rotation. All three had catches. All three had big plays. All three did nice things in the run game, because all three were fresh throughout the whole game. And that's why the depth is so important, particularly when you're in a tempo offense like ours.
From what you've seen so far, what has stood out to you about App's defense, just looking on film?
It hasn't changed. I'm going to say a lot of the things, I'm sure. It's not like I went back and looked at our press conference against App State in 2019, but I've always known about their program. I've known a lot of people that have coached there. I've known people who have played there. Typically, they are extremely well coached, and that's no different this year. They know their scheme. They're not overly multiple, but they do enough that it creates problems for you. And what they do complements each other. But I just think they're incredibly well coached, and they play well together, and they play hard, and they play physical. And they force you to stay focused the entire game, because if you sleep on a play, or you have a mental lapse on a play, or you're not at your best physically on a play, then you're gonna get beat. And so it's an every down focus, and it takes some discipline and some mistake-free football, I think, to be able to get after App State offensively the way we would like to try and do so.
How was their communication on the offensive line, and what did you like from Spencer Rowland play?
So you mentioned communication and Spencer Rowland. On the first play, the communication wasn't great. We let an inside zone go right through our gap, and then after that, he kind of settled down and did a good job. And he's kind of just a competent, dependable, trustworthy mainstay, and he's really physical, and he plays the entire play. So he is a high effort guy, and he's really bright, obviously, and so we have a lot of confidence in him. And I thought he had a good game. He did a good job. Coach Bicknell was impressed with the game that he put in. We were wondering how he would be from a rep count standpoint. We get into an 8, 10, 12 play drive. Can he sustain that? Because he didn't play in a tempo system, at Harvard. So he's got a full August camp with the way we do things, but you just never know how that's going to transition on game day, and that really wasn't an issue. And I think after the opening play mistake where he's a little behind on his assignment, everything else wound up playing out. Spencer's good, trust him. I thought our line played with some great continuity. Communication was really good. I don't know that we had any play at all in the game where we had 4 guys doing one thing and 1 doing another, which is a nice change, and it was a plus for us. And we didn't have, the pre-snap penalties. We had one where they said, Corey, move the football. You know what I mean? And then we had a questionable holding call on Ed Montilus on the draw in the 2-minute drill that I definitely didn't think was a holding penalty, but it is what it is, and that stuff all tends to even out during the course of a game. But overall, for the opening day, for our younger O-line, very happy with the communication and the continuity.
Phil, when you're making some of the comparisons of what Javonte went through and maybe hoping Omarion can make that progression in terms of making people miss stuff like that, do you talk to him about Javonte specifically? Do you show him clips of Javonte since, I don't know, maybe a similar body type or something like that? Is he a guy you pull up for on?
So truth be told, when I watch Omarion run, and I kind of see, how he does things, because he has the same blend of speed and strength, it just reminds me of Javonte. So it's also half wishful thinking that I bring up Omarion and Javonte in the same sentence, because you hope that, he elevates to that level. But to answer your question, I would say it's on my to-do list today to try and get in touch with Javonte today, because I just want, and I have had this conversation with he and Michael before about what they did in the offseason, because the two of them came back so much better in the weaker areas that they had. Javonte was second level point of attack, and Michael needed to get stronger and more durable, more explosive, and the two of them came back so much better in those areas. And they trained together, so I know that helped. But I am very curious as to what Javonte did to improve the second level stuff, because I'd like to get that feedback and maybe share it with Omarion, or have Javonte call Omarion so that they can talk about it. And I also know Coach Porter, that's going to be an emphasis for him with Omarion this week, as it would be with all of our running backs.
All right, Dan.
Well, the great thing about the game Saturday night, there was a lot of adjustments that had to go on. Number one, there was a lot of teaching moments. You get into those first games, you're not really sure what you're going to see, and so I think there was a lot of growth in the game, because we started out, we didn't play well, at a lot of different phases, at a lot of different times. First down being one of them. So we had to go and make sure that they saw the game and saw the pictures that they were getting, and adjust to what they were seeing. So, the other thing that was great about the game is that they did a lot of things to put strains on defenses, just in general. So I think it was a great, yesterday when we got together, it was a great learning environment to, be able to adapt and adjust to things that we won't see. Like, the same thing could happen this week, right? Like some things we haven't seen. They've got a new offensive coordinator, so there'll be some things that we haven't seen that we have to adjust to as well. But there was a lot of great teaching moments, and we didn't play great all the time. And at times we played poorly, but I feel like in the end we were able to kind of adapt and adjust and get our feet back on the ground.
What would you like to see about the secondary, the change in the secondary? They gave some, like you said, some significant passing yards.
Yeah, they did.
What changes can you make? What would you like to make?
Well, it's not really changes. It's more communication, identifying situations that, going to put us possibly in, that would possibly strain those type of coverages, and just recognize things. I think our eyes were bad at times. I think there were some instances where we just didn't execute the coverages very well. And so, those type of things were pointed out yesterday. So it's not that you go back and you change a lot. I think it's really more go back and show when we were not playing well, why. When we weren't playing pass defense great, was it one guy? Was it several guys? And I think there was a mixture of a lot of that. So again, yesterday was just a great teaching moment for a lot of guys. We were playing some young guys back there in the secondary, and it was some of their first games back there. So things were happening, and they were happening fast. But again, I think we go back to great teaching moments. And I think the way the game flowed, it was really good for us because we had to play when things weren't going well. We had to, adapt and adjust to some, to some adverse situations. And so as you start new and you have new guys and you have new coaches, it's kind of the growing pains that go with it. We wished we would have played better when it comes to pass defense. But again, our job between week 1 and week 2 is to make sure that we make those changes and we make those corrections and they understand the corrections to play better defense next week.
With the run defense, I mean, or the guys up front in general, the run defensive numbers were good. You were just talking about the secondary. Overall up front, like, what was your feeling about getting enough pressure and all those things that go into the playing up front? Well,
let me say this first of all. They had a really good plan because they were getting the ball out fast. But, if you just look at raw numbers, we had 3 sacks. I think we had, there was times where we pressured the quarterback. We were in his face, and he still got the ball off, and he threw some accurate balls. And let me say this. Let me go back. It's not all on the secondary. It's everybody, right? So it's pass rush, and then it's linebackers in coverage, and then it's DBs in coverage. So it's not an indictment on any one group. It's us all having to do it better, play it better, and it starts from the front back. So there was times when we felt like we were getting good pressure. There was times when we felt like we should have got better pressure. And so it was kind of a mixed bag. And that's why I say that it was, that it was good as far as the way the game unfolded. We played okay in the run game. I expect us to play much better in the run game than we did. There are some things that we didn't do well. You can't look at those numbers and just say, wow, they played really good run defense. The final numbers, would suggest that it was, but there's a lot of room for improvement there. And we'll have to play much better this week against the run to be able to stop this run attack that we're going to face. But again, there are small victories all over the field Saturday, and we just got to keep building on it.
Sticking to the run game, what challenges do App State present? They've got 2,000-yard rushers back there in the backfield. Just what do you want to see from your front seven to improve upon this week to get over that attack?
Well, yeah, the front seven, if we're going to win the football game, it's got to be won with the front seven, them being able to control the ground attack. They've done a fantastic job. They got a great scheme. If you look up and down their offensive line, running backs, quarterback, it's amazing how many 5th and 6th year guys they have. So what comes with that is a ton of experience. What comes with that program, what they've done there is a lot of wins and a lot of championship expectations there. So they expect to come into these games and win. And it's not new to them. They've done it before, right? So, but it's a very talented group. They have great, tough downhill running backs. The quarterback's really, really efficient. But more than anything, from tackle to tackle and then going back to the backfield, just a ton of experience. When you have that many guys that have played 5 and in some cases 6 years, that's a huge advantage, for your team. So, but we got to go in there and we got to be able to play stout on the front. We got to be able to get off blocks. We got to be able to strike blocks. And we got to be able to run fit. And against this crew right now, a lot of people struggle doing that. So that'll be our challenge.
Gee, maybe along those lines, I don't want this to sound ridiculous at all, but, Carolina played Chase Bryce at Clemson and at Duke, and the Duke game, they got after pretty good on defense. It was 2 years ago, though. Like, is that tape from 2 years ago, and all the age your study of just what kind of quarterback he is, would you even pull that up to look at that, or is that just too far in the past?
I have not pulled that up. I will pull that up to look at it just to see his skill set. But let me tell you, quarterbacks change based on scheme. I mean, look at the guy last week. He went to Vanderbilt and did nothing because I don't know why, right? But I mean, no one really knew anything about him. I thought the guy last week was a really efficient, accurate, sat in the pocket and threw the ball well quarterback. So, and I think the scheme helped with that, right? So, This quarterback has gone to a new program. They've gone to a program that wins, and the scheme allows them to run the football and take the pressure off the quarterback. So in the play-action game, he can have some success. They are absolutely about all protection. They're going to put 7 guys back there and protect him, and they'll run a lot of 3-man routes. And when you do that, he's been really, really efficient. So don't know a lot about where, he was at Clemson and Duke in terms of his production. I will go back and peek at it, but what I've seen so far, really, really, really good.
In terms of preparing, you said you're going to watch where the offensive coordinator was last year. Obviously, he was at Central Michigan. Then also, do you watch Chase Rice just last year, or do you watch him at Duke? How did that go in preparing for offense you haven't seen yet?
Yeah, that's a great question. So obviously, the lion's share of what we'll do is in this scheme, what has he done? So that's what we've been focusing on right now. We'll go back and peek at Central Michigan because there'll be new concepts probably that he's going to bring in, and I don't think they'll change a lot in the run game because they've had too much success with what they do. But the pass concepts could change a little bit based on the new coordinator. And so I think it'll be a little bit of a mixed bag, but we'll go back and look at what he did at Duke, peek at that, because I want to see what kind of, deep ball thrower he is, what kind of, intermediate ball thrower he is. What is he like if there's pressure on him? What is he like if there's not pressure on him? So those are the things that you look for. You don't really look for anything schematically. You look for when this happens, is he efficient? Or when this happens, is he not efficient? Meaning pressure, non-pressure, things of that nature. So that's kind of what you get out of that.
Would you like about the defensive line against FAMU? There's a lot of hype in that group. I feel like during the season, definitely rolled out a good amount of players.
It was great because we got a lot of we built a plan on reps, like a rep count, right? With how many did we envision each guy getting, and we stuck really, really close to that because we didn't really want any of those guys playing over 40 plays in the game. So our rotation was good. I think they were productive at times. I think that there's obviously a lot of room for improvement, but I feel like when we did a 4-man rush, we pressed the pocket collapsed fast. He was getting the ball out quick. So that's why, 3 sacks was what we got, but we felt like there was some pressure back there most of the day. And I felt like they run fit well. Felt like they got off blocks. They were striking blocks. They were getting off blocks, obviously with a lot of room to improve. But again, if this defense is going to take steps moving forward, everything's got to start with the D-line, and the linebackers, the front 7.
It was the first extended playing time for DeAndre Boykins. What did you like that he did, and overall, how did he grade out?
I'm sorry, can you say it again? Oh, Dre.
Yeah, his first extended playing time.
Yes, I was really proud of him. I was really proud of Dre Boykins. I thought I think he might have played more plays than anybody on the defense, to be honest with you. I think he played 68 total plays on defense. Really productive, was always around the football, executed what we asked him to do in our coverages, in our run fits, and when he was part of the run game. We used him with some pressure a little bit. He made a couple of negative plays in the run game, but overall very, very impressed. You go into these games and you wonder what guys are going to do when the lights come on, right? You don't know. And he was definitely he was productive. He played within the defense, and he played a lot of plays. So very, very proud of him.
What about Power Eccles?
Who?
Power Eccles.
Power Eccles I thought he was amazing. I thought he played a fantastic football game. He was all over the place. He played with amazing effort. Played amazing within the scheme, was full speed all over the field. He's the one guy that, to me, if you pick anybody that stood out in terms of production, what he meant to the defense, he was the guy that definitely jumped out to me.
How would you kind of assess, Mac talked about it being your first game back in a while, and just, the flow of the play calls and, the communication from the box to the sideline. How would you kind of assess how all that went for you?
It was definitely a fun night. at times. At times it wasn't very fun. But no, it was good. It was good for me to get back into the flow of that. It was good for us to get the communication things going. And I'm going to be honest with you, it was really good for us at time to be strained in the game when we weren't playing well and trying to figure out the things we had to do to kind of get it back under control. Not just from, a play calling standpoint, but communication from me to the coaches on the field, getting it to the players down there. There was a lot of moving parts that happened in that game that I think will serve us well down the road. But overall, I thought it went well. And overall, I thought that the things that happened to us in the game, I think they needed to happen. I think that we needed to have those scenarios come up where there was adversity, there's times we weren't playing well, then we turn around, we create a turnover, we were able to get a couple of turnovers that turned into 14 points. So there's a lot of positives that we can bring for the game, but certainly, a good amount of negatives too that we can build on it. And I shouldn't say negatives, I'll say teaching moments that we can build from. So. And that's how we look at that. We don't look at anything. We don't look at all the stats and the numbers and all that. We just look at execution. And at times it was really good, and at times it was poor. So that's what we have to do, is go back and point out when it was poor, why it was poor, and how we move forward fixing it.
Gene, we picked on you a little bit early in camp about losing your voice the one day. When you're getting back into this, you talk about calling the game for the first time in a couple of years, are you trying to pick your spots more about yelling at people? Is that something you try to do this time around? I'm not saying you should.
What are you talking about now?
I'm not saying you should yell at anybody, but I'm saying
That's a first question. That's the first time I've been asked that.
just trying to get inside.
Yes, I think picking my spots and being choosy with that would probably be accurate and wise. You can see right now my voice is okay, right?
You sound great.
Right, but I've had 2 days off from yelling, so tomorrow won't sound the same. Yes, we definitely, we pick and choose. We coach them, right? We coach them. And, we treat them all with respect, and we treat them all like men. And sometimes you have to handle constructive criticism. And, that's how we go about doing our business. And normally we tell them, don't listen to the tone, just listen to the message, But I think we do a good job with that.
Do you have a chain, since you're upstairs during game, do you have a chain of command about who has to go tell somebody something that needs to be addressed immediately? There's sort of a line of communication there that
There
you
is.
work through?
There is, and I've got communication access to everybody, but there's kind of a chain of command on how we do it. It goes to one voice, then it goes to all the coaches, and then obviously I can speak to anybody I want on any headset if I want to speak to a particular player. But the communication process flowed pretty well.
All righty.
You good?
Thanks, Gene.
You got it, guys. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Gene.
You got it, guys. Have a great day.
Yep.
You too. Expected you to ask what type of tea he was drinking to keep it